On the night of February 12, 1976, someone murdered the beloved actor Sal Mineo. There were no clues, none at all, beyond the obvious. The actor was in an alley behind his apartment in West Hollywood, off the Sunset Strip, when he was stabbed once in the back. The wound punctured his heart and killed him almost immediately. Sal Mineo's killing fit right into the so-called rebel without a cause curse. James Dean was killed in a car crash in 1955 and the actress, Natalie Wood, drowned under odd circumstances in 1981. By every account, Sal Mineo was a great guy. Well-loved, sensitive, an outstanding and perceptive actor with enormous screen potential that he never realized. He loved the actor's craft and was an enthusiastic and creative soul. He was born poor into an Italian immigrant family in the Bronx. Sal's mother held high hopes for her boy and enrolled him in dancing and acting school at an early age, which led to his first stage appearance in Tennessee Williams' play The Rose Tattoo, and as the young prince opposite Yul in the stage musical The King and I. By 1954 he landed a spot on the NBC Opera Theatre's production of Richard Strauss's Salome. Films followed. He made his screen debut in Six Bridges to Cross, beating out Clint Eastwood for the role, which landed him a part in The Private War of Major Benson, opposite Charlton Heston. But it was the film Rebel Without a Cause that made him a star when he was only 16. The role earned him an Academy Award nominations. By the end of 1955, he was heartthrob to tens of millions of teens. The Sal Mineo fan club was worldwide and had tens of thousands of members. He had a brief but successful career as a recording artist, made it to number 9 on the Billboard chart in 1957, even though Mineo was quick to point out that he had only minimal talents as a singer. Fan magazines ran headlines about Mineo Mania. In 1956, he appeared in a small role in another James Dean film, Giant. He also landed good roles in Crime in the Streets, where he earned his newspaper nickname The Switchblade Kid, and another smash film hit, Somebody Up There Likes Me, with Paul Newman. In 1958, he had a hit with Disney's Tonka, and in 1959, he had the title role in the Gene Krupa story, but it was 1960's Exodus that made him a true star. The film brought him a second Academy Award nomination as Best Supporting Actor. He remains the youngest actor to have achieved 2 Oscar nominations by the age of 22. By the early mid-1960s, his teenage fans had grown older and moved along. Sal's career cooled. He was too old to play the parts he had perfected and brought him celebrity, and he was typecast as a knife-wielding yet emotionally sensitive thug. He couldn't figure out why his career had taken such a drastic turn, telling friends, "One minute it seemed I had more movie offers than I could handle, the next, no one wanted me." Universal International was wild about him. They offered him a 7-year, 7-figure contract, but Sal's mother was acting as his agent and rejected the offer. She told her son to only take leading man roles. But that never came to be because in some part, it was the ceaseless rumor that he was gay that killed his career as a leading man. Directors thought a rumored gay man, as their film's macho leading man, would kill their project. Sal would have made an incredible career as a supporting actor, but he didn't want that. His friend Susan Broey said, but he stopped and waited for other leading man roles, and he waited, and he waited. And he couldn't hope to play leads, really. He was too young looking, too intense, and too ethnic looking to fit the style of the leading men of that period. By the end of the decade, he was doing stage work to stay in the spotlight. Roles came slowly and then not at all. He went out for audition but wasn't hired. When David Lean was filming Lawrence of Arabia, a film where Mineo and his swarthy good looks could have fit somewhere, Lean passed on him. That same year he was called in for a part in the battlefield epic The Longest Day, but the part they gave him was a private who was killed in the film's opening scenes. In 1976, the year he finished his last screen role on an episode of the NBC crime drama Joe Forrester, Sal was offered the lead in a hit play called P.S. Your Cat is Dead. He would play Vito, a bisexual burglar. The opening night was a smash and Mineo's reviews were excellent. Things were looking up. At about that same time, he had successfully pitched a script for a film called McCaffrey. The producer Billy Belasco met Sal at the Palm and told him MGM would produce and distribute the film. Mineo not only secured his own financing for the film, he would also direct. On February 12, 1976, the last day of his short life, Sal got a call from Burr, who made plans to fly into LA on February 6. There were more calls that morning, mostly to invite friends to the February 25th opening of the play. Lisa Minnelli called to say she was flying in from New York to be there. He spoke to Jill Howarth, who was also in New York. The production of P.S. Your Cat is Dead moved to the Westwood Playhouse in Los Angeles, only a few miles from Mineo's apartment. He had been at a read-through practice at the theater. Sal, only 37 years old, was dressed comfortably in blue jeans and a blue shirt with red and white flowers, black sneakers. He left the theater at roughly 9 p.m., stopped at a convenience store for cigarettes and cupcakes and drove home, pulling his 1973 Duster into the apartment building's narrow and cramped carport. It was Friday the 13th. Mineo reached home at about 9:50 p.m. The mansion he once leased was long gone. Now he lived in a first-floor modest one-bedroom apartment in a post-war build 3-story stucco building that was owned as an investment by the high-profile Hollywood divorce attorney Marvin Michelson, about 2 blocks off of Sunset Strip, which in those days had hit its bottom. It had grown seedy and slightly menacing. The apartment was in the name of his longtime love, Courtney Burr, because Mineo had ruined his own credit. His killer, a 19-year-old thug, and lifelong criminal named Lionel Ray Williams waited in the dark in the alley. When Mineo stepped from his economy car and opened the door to the apartment building, Williams rushed him and there was a struggle. Aside from the element of surprise, they were equally matched. Williams, who was wearing all black clothes and sneakers, was a small man and Mineo stood just under 5 feet 6 inches and weighed just over 140 pounds. Mineo screamed, "Oh, no. Oh my God. No. Help me, please," and Williams panicked. Pulled out a fishing knife and stabbed the actor once in the upper left chest, severing his artery. And then he fled. It was over by 10 p.m. It was a massive wound. Blood was everywhere. It flowed 10 feet down the alley. Apartment windows overlook the narrow carport where sounds carried. 2 tenants ran down and tried to help. A tenant named Ray Evans rushed to the scene. "I saw a man in the fetus position, lying on his side," he said. Because of an incline, blood seemed to be coming from his head. "I turned him over and I said, 'Sal, my God,' and I saw his whole chest covered with blood on the left side. I saw he was going into an ashen color, and I immediately started to give him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Everyone was yelling, 'Get the police. Get an ambulance.' I was getting a response. Then all of a sudden he gave a deep breath and that was it. The police arrived at that point. The crime scene was an investigator's nightmare. Well-meaning neighbors had trampled across it, leaving their footprints in the blood, moving the actor's belongings away from the body. There were witnesses, but each one told a different version of events. They had all heard the actor's screams as he was being killed. One said the killer was white with dark blonde hair, another said he was white, but with curly dark hair. Another said he was Hispanic, another said he was black. The police searched his car. They found sunglasses, a red address book, a manila envelope, car keys, a small paper bag that held a cellophane-wrapped piece of cake. In his apartment they found movie and play scripts, a collection of gay-oriented soft porn paperbacks, wall posters of half-clad male models, but nothing else of any interest. Neighbors said he kept to himself, but was always cordial. Some said there was a steady flow of young men into his apartment. All sorts of men. A friend named Christine Clark said, "I know that Sal knows a lot of people. And not all of them are what you would call fine, upstanding citizens. Otherwise, his social life seemed to revolve around the local gay community." The police discounted robbery as a motive. The actor's wallet wasn't taken, there was $21 in it, his expensive jewelry wasn't touched. Police considered the fact that Sal had been a vocal supporter of prison reform, which may have put him in contact with dangerous ex-cons, but that idea was soon set aside. Then detectives surmised his murder was sex-related. Perhaps a trick in the alley had gone wrong. And that was where the investigation stayed. The cops centered their inquiries into Mineo's sex life. Sal's bisexuality had been an open secret in Hollywood for 2 decades. While making Exodus, Sal started dating actress Jill Howarth. According to her, she lost her virginity to Mineo at the age of 15 in her hotel suite at the Gotham Hotel in Manhattan. In 1962, Sal befriended a young singer-actor named Bobby Sherman. He wrote 2 songs for him and arranged a recording session for him as well. 2 years later in 1964, Sal had Sherman sing with his band at a Hollywood party where he was noticed and signed with an agency. He landed on a spot on the hit teenage dance show Shindig as a regular cast member. In 1968, he was hired as a cast member for the program Here Come the Brides, and by 1969, he was teeny bop a heartthrob and a best-selling pop singer. According to Jill Howarth, she once walked in on Sal and Sherman while they were in the act, in her bed where Mineo was riding the singer. He didn't stop, she said. He kept going at it. Jill walked out of the apartment and caught the first plane to New York. While being interviewed on the daytime talk show Girl Talk, the hostess, Virginia Graham, asked why she had broken up with Mineo, and Jill answered, "Well, he left me for another man." A few years went by before Sal and Jill patched it up. In the 1970s, Mineo dropped his charade and admitted to being bisexual. He came forward mostly because over the years he had been identified as exclusively gay, which he insisted he wasn't. But the rumor mill said he had been involved with Rock Hudson and Peter Lawford in the past, and several other well-known leading men who were still in the closet. It's important to note that Mineo probably was bisexual at some point earlier in his life, but in the 1970s, there was still very much a stigma to being gay, and the actor may have revealed his bisexuality as a way slowly and carefully dropping the other shoe and admitting he exclusively gay. Detectives made the rounds of the area's gay bars. They learned that Mineo liked a certain type. White men between the ages of 14 to 20, sometimes he liked them dumb. He wasn't above quick sex with a hitchhiker, or a one-night stand with young black men, or the gay bar trade. He was non-violent and sharp as a razor's edge. They learned that he had money problems and that for a while he was flat broke, but he had landed some well-paying theater roles recently, and although things were better, he was also badly in debt. The police rousted known gay hustlers and prostitutes, but learned nothing except that Sal Mineo was a nice guy and well-liked in the community. The autopsy further revealed that the cause of death was a massive hemorrhage from a wound that had perforated his heart. Sal was extremely healthy, but had used a considerable amount of drugs, LSD and marijuana, and the medical examiner surmised heroin, since Mineo's buttocks and other areas of the body showed needle punctures. A former male lover came forward and explained that Sal took hormone injections, by needle, to combat his failing sexual appetite, thus explaining the puncture wounds in his buttocks. The actor was also said to have been an avid user of cocaine. There were lunatics, of course. Every celebrity murder draws lunatics. In April of 1976, a burglar named John Angelo Rossi was arrested by the Tucson police. The cops found a hand-scrawled notebook on him in which he wrote that he had made it with Sal Mineo and later killed him. The rest of the notes are psychopathic babble. A check on his whereabouts on the night the actor was killed placed Rossi in Phoenix. After a few weeks, when no clues at all were uncovered, the case went cold. A few days after Sal Mineo was murdered, LA detectives came by Lionel Ray Williams' apartment and interviewed him about the killing. They said that a friend of his had told them he killed Mineo. The detectives returned to the apartment again a few weeks later, but William wasn't there, and his mother insisted that her son was home with him that night, watching television. But by the second visit, Williams had already fled LA for Calhoun County, Michigan, where Teresa had family. A few weeks after the cops' last visit to Williams' home, on April 26, 1977, Teresa Collins, Williams' wife, contacted a DA's informant to send out word that she knew who killed Sal Mineo. When the DA's office interviewed her almost a month later, she said that she met Williams in 1973. They married on May 12, 1976, had 2 children, went broke and moved in with her mother. Teresa had been involved in 2 prior stick-ups with Williams, acting as his lookout. She had been arrested with him in a scam to switch VIN numbers on a stolen '67 Pontiac, but the case was dropped due to lack of evidence. She added that Williams was abusive and worthless, and she wanted to put herself in the clear over the killing. She said that on the night of the murder, Williams' car was in the shop for repairs, and he was driving a rented Dodge Colt. He told Teresa he was going out to rob someone, but needed money for a knife he had seen at Western Surplus. She gave him the money and left. Later that night, Williams returned home to West 93rd in South Los Angeles and found Teresa, only 19, on the couch watching television. He showed the knife and said, "I just stabbed a dude." "What dude?" she asked, "and where?" "A young-looking white dude in Hollywood." "Why?" Williams explained that he was hiding out in the alley, only intending to rob someone, not kill them, when Sal came along. When the robbery started, Mineo screamed for help and stabbed him. Teresa left the living room and joined William's mother, Mattie Snell, in her bedroom to watch television there. It was the mother's apartment. Williams hid the knife, showered and changed his clothes, and then joined mother and wife in the bedroom to watch television. He told them to turn the channel, and then told his mother that he had stabbed someone in West Hollywood and wanted to see if it made the news. He wondered if he had killed the man. It was on the news. In fact, it was the lead story: actor Sal Mineo stabbed to death in West Hollywood. William's mother panicked, and Williams told her he had just made it all up, that he hadn't stabbed anyone. They gave her a sleeping pill and slipped back out to the living room. A 15-year-old friend of Teresa's named LaSonia Armstrong came by, and the three of them smoked a joint, and Williams told her how he had stabbed and killed Sal Mineo a few hours before. She didn't believe him, but Teresa told her it was true. Williams went to bed, but after a while returned to the living room with the knife and told the women that he was going to hold a séance to reach the man he had just killed. They sat on the floor and held hands. Williams said, "Sal Mineo says, everybody, take off your clothes," and then added, talking to Mineo, "I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. I didn't know it was you. I didn't mean to do it. Man, I'm really sorry." He fell asleep on the floor. When he awoke, he told Teresa that he wanted to have an orgy with her and the teenage LaSonia. Then he grabbed Teresa by the throat and said, "It's orgy your fault, they're trying to take my car." Then he grabbed the knife from the floor where he had left it, placed up against LaSonia's throat and said, "I'm going to put you out on the street to make me some money," and tried to rape her but fell asleep instead. She said the murder weapon was long gone. On May 21, 1976, someone robbed Williams' apartment and took the knife along with a black and white TV, a three-piece suit, a radio and a piggy bank stuffed with coins. On May 4, 1977, Teresa Collins passed a polygraph test about her statements. LaSonia Armstrong, the teen who visited on the night of the murder, confirmed Teresa Collins' statement and added that Williams had shown her some dark-colored with blood stains and told her that was what he was wearing when stabbed Mineo. By that time Williams was in jail in Michigan on a robbery charge. He had told a prison snitch that he stabbed Mineo to death over an unpaid debt. On several other occasions, prison guards heard William admit to the murder as well. The prison warden notified the LA police, who flew to Michigan and interviewed him. Williams swore he didn't kill Mineo, and had no idea who the actor was. By the detectives thought otherwise and charged him with Sal's murder and extradited him to Los Angeles in January 1978. During his 1978 trial, a string of witnesses came forward and identified Williams as the burglar in at least 10 robberies in and around the area where Mineo lived. The prosecution argued that the Mineo murder was premeditated. They believed that William had laid in wait for the actor to return home so he could rob him. They also a witness named Alwyn Price Williams, who knew Williams and testified that Lionel Ray Williams bragged about the murder and how he used a pearl-handled knife to kill him. However, the defense destroyed Alwyn Price Williams' testimony. Under cross-examination, the young man admitted lying because he thought it would get him out of jail, where he was serving time on a kidnapping conviction. Since Teresa Williams had invoked spousal privilege and wasn't going to testify, the defense was able to walk over her testimony. The defense also placed 3 witnesses to the murder on the stand and had them go over their statements about the attack they saw. That none. 2 of them said the attacker was white. The third said the attacker that he saw was probably a Mexican. The prosecution then showed a series of photos of Williams with his hair processed straight, very long and dyed blonde in parks. In 1979, he was found guilty of second-degree murder and was sentenced to 51 years to life in state prison. 21 years later, he was paroled on the murder charge, but was sent to prison on other charges unrelated to the Mineo killing.